sensational stuff. Oh, big tackle. What a try. Oh, what a tackle. Absolute bell ring. He got great. It's a beauty. Try time. Oh, not a try out of nothing.
It's always a daunting task to play Newcastle here at Marathon Stadium, and when you do play them you want to be at your best, and unfortunately that isn't the case today for Western Suburbs, because missing from the West's lineup we have their two big men, Harvey Howard and John Skandalis, and their informed winger Barry Davis is also out. The Newcastle Knights, a big opportunity for Newcastle, given of course that Sydney City and Cronulla, who are up above them on the ladder, have been beaten so far in this round, so it's the chance for the Knights to gain a little bit of ground on the front runners, and this is a game that they won't want to be taking lightly. And a very special day for that man, Billy Peden, wearing the number 13 for Newcastle, playing his 100th first grade game. The Newcastle side, coached by Warren Ryan, and a very formidable outlook, is, given their state of origin players are back. O'Davis is back into the lineup, McDougall is there, Johns is back in. They're a strong side.
Well, they certainly are, John, and it'll be interesting to see how their origin representatives finish up after today's game, having played on Wednesday night, which was a tough encounter, but a lot to play for Newcastle. As I say, they can finish up 1 point behind Sydney City if they win.
So all in readiness for this clash between Newcastle and Wests. The two sides did meet back earlier in the season at Parramatta Stadium, when Newcastle won by 26 points to 2. Newcastle taking the kick-off, and as Wests bring it back on their first touch of the ball, let's take your sideline to check on conditions at ground level. Good afternoon, Russell Fairfax.
Yes, good afternoon. Very cool conditions down here. There's been a lot of rain during the week, but the track is very firm, is very fast. The wind blowing left to right across the screen will favour Newcastle, probably worth about 3 or 4 points, but gee, conditions for players, absolutely perfect.
Thanks, Russell. Tate Mosley. Big job for Mosley today, wearing the number 8 for Wests, the jersey that's been worn for most of the season by Harvey Howard, who's given them their go forward right through the year. So a lot resting on the shoulders today of Mosley and his fellow front rower Dale Bonner. The kick downfield and the roar for the state of origin fullback for Queensland, Robbie O'Davis, and immediately thrown wide to, well, he's not a state of origin teammate. One of the people who was on the field with him. They weren't mates on Wednesday night, Adam McDougall and he, but they certainly will be mates this afternoon. Newcastle just on halfway. Tony Butterfield playing the ball. Good go forward by Clinton O'Brien. That's an ominous sign for Wests, just leaving that hole down the middle of the ruck. First penalty. The hand was in. As you heard Matt Hewitt say, the hand was in the play the ball area. Good run by O'Brien.
It's been a good start by Newcastle. We see them take the quick tap, but we saw the hand there on the play of the ball.
And immediately going wide, Adam McDougall not able to take that ball. Ken McGuinness comes up with it. So they've been under the hammer right from the word go, in fact, the Magpies. Jerry Mesher has put to ground. Brett Hodgson, a couple of times already that the fullback has gone up to play a dummy half in the opening minute of this game. This is better by the Magpies. Brooker going wide, put to ground in the tackle of Darren Elvin. Dale Bonner doing well to unload his pass to Shane Perry. This is Hodgson trying to cut through the line, but put to ground by Sean Rudder's tackle. Perry. On halfway. Last tackle coming up now. Mesher getting it back to Dorahy, runs and then is caught on the last. Well, probably his idea originally, Dorahy, was okay. He'd beaten the first line, then he had to get his kick away. And as it's turned out, Newcastle are very quickly able to go on the attack, and this is McDougall.
Well, John, Newcastle have shown their hand early. They are throwing the ball wide, and in particular throwing it out to McDougall's wing. So obviously looking to get around the outside of the Western Suburbs defence.
Scott Connolly just on halfway. They bring it to the right-hand side, turned inside from Butterfield to Peden. Ran into the tackle of Dale Bonner. Referee ruled it was okay. Clinton O'Brien. 25 metres out from the West's line. Matthew Johns. Back to brother Andrew. Probing through the middle of the ruck goes Andrew Johns. He's got support on the outside if he needs them. Decided to go himself. That was a try gone begging. He had two men unmarked on his outside. Andrew Johns just tried to do a little too much himself. Now away from O'Davis, then away to Hughes, and McDougall over the touchline. Should have had a try on the board, Newcastle. He was just a little bit greedy, Andrew Johns. He's a great player, but on that occasion he would know he'd just done the wrong thing.
Yeah, Johnny, he did all the hard work early, made the break, and then one man to beat, two men on his outside, and decided to go himself, and it certainly has cost him a try. And of course the big throw the ball wide on the left-hand side, and that pass again was far too high and too wide for McDougall.
You have to say, Russell Fairfax, that even at this early stage of the game, and we've had less than 5 minutes, but the danger signs are there for Western Suburbs. The alarm bells are ringing already for them.
You are dead set right, but just looking at this game, I hope Newcastle don't take this Western Suburbs side lightly. I know they're on the bottom of the competition, but they'll put up a spirited fight if Newcastle let them. And that play then, where they just moved it willy-nilly to the left, reminded me that they're showing very little respect for this Western Suburbs side. They'll have to change that.
Well, I'm sure that Warren Ryan, in the change rooms before the game for Newcastle, would have been saying exactly what Russell just said. You only had to look at yesterday. Sydney City took North Queensland a little lightly, and that's not taking anything away from the Cowboys, but they paid the price.
Well, the thing, John, is that Newcastle's got to do the hard work early, and if they can get away and do the hard work, they'll make it a lot easier for themselves for the rest of the game.
O'Davis running into a fairly high tackle by Mesha, and they wanted to go on with it a little bit after that tackle. On their own 20, McDougall playing the ball. This is Hughes, put to ground in the tackle of Tate Mosley. Butterfield smashes his way outside his own 30. Then stands and unloads to Badiris, and away through Andrew Johns. And the wide pass from O'Davis to Hughes and on to McDougall, this time with a little bit of room to move. Good covering tackle though by Kevin McGuinness, gets hold of him. Andrew Johns runs it to the line, on to brother Matthew. Got his kick away well, Matthew Johns. Albert coming after it, got it and scored! Oh, great try, Darren Albert. Hurt himself as he scored that try. The bounce may have favoured him, but that was a terrific chase by Albert. Great kick got away by Matthew Johns, and a fantastic chase by Darren Albert.
Well, this was a great kick, and they've got a lot of pacemen on the wing there. Darren Albert is one of them, McDougall the other, but this was a great pick-up here. He's done exceptionally well to grab that ball and put it over the try line.
They have gone to the video referee, who was Noel Bissett, for this afternoon. But no doubt about that, it was an excellent try by Darren Albert. Just waiting on Noel Bissett to actually make his decision and try it.
The thing about it, John, is that earlier on, up in their own half, Newcastle did do the hard work. They had their front rowers hitting the ball up, and it was Tony Butterfield that was able to unload a good pass, and that enabled him to make the initial break.
Well, here's the kick now. Gee, it's well judged. He may have only played one State of Origin game this year, but I don't think there are any better finishers in the game. How does he stay in? Well, he's just sensational.
13th try of the season for the hero of their grand final win a couple of years ago, Darren Albert. This was just, well, it was a great kick to start with, but what a superb finish. That's what you love to see wingers doing.
Well, it certainly is, and I guess there was an element of luck there. You've got to be in position to take the luck. The ball bounced all right. It could have bounced awkwardly, as a football always does, and gone over the touchline, but Darren Albert, he was there on the spot to accept that bit of luck that they had.
And I suppose a bit of friendly rivalry between the two wingers, given that McDougall came in to replace Darren Albert after the first Origin game this year. Kick by Andrew Johns in difficult conditions with that wind coming across the ground. Not successful, but 4-0 it is in favour of the Newcastle Knights.
I just wonder if West have learned a lesson there. They have got to regroup very quickly once there's a break. If they don't do it, the two Johns boys will just carve them up just like they did there. They must regroup in defence if there is a half break or a quick turnover, and that's something they've been guilty of just about all year.
Great finish, Darren Albert. Just lovely to see a winger who backs himself and knows how to finish a try.
Well, certainly has plenty of pace, hasn't he? And that's what the Newcastle side are using, their wingers that have got the pace.
So good start by Newcastle, leading by 4-0. And Wests under the hammer already as Clinton O'Brien takes it out to his own 30. The statistic in this game that isn't good for Wests is that it's over 2 years, in fact May of 1997, since the Magpies won a game outside of the Sydney area, and that was against the Gold Coast. Matthew Gidley just on halfway. Scott Connolly still crawling a couple of metres. They're on the last now, the Novocastrians. Andrew Johns with that high swirling kick for Hodgson. Does well, the little bloke. He's got a ton of heart, this kid, Brett Hodgson. There's nothing of him. He takes a pounding nearly every game. But one thing you can't doubt about him is the guts and determination he has.
Well, that was certainly a great take. I mean, it was a very good kick by Johns, and we see this every week by Newcastle. He's very good at putting the high ball in the air. But that was certainly a great catch.
So the Magpies penalty, which is on their own 20. And Hodgson simply taps it into touch, makes a gain of 10 metres, where Mesher takes the tap. Dane Dorahy, like Hodgson, just an absolute featherweight. Perry turning his pass back on the inside, trying to shuffle it wide. Hodgson again, this time thrown to ground by Johns. The referee will rule that the ball was knocked on. Scrum feed goes the way of Newcastle. In fact, ruling that the pass had travelled forward to Hodgson. So the Newcastle scrum is 25 metres out from the West's line. Matthew Johns cutting his way through goes Matthew Gidley. Gidley straight through and will bring it around and score under the post. How easy was that? No excuse there for the West Magpies. It was from a scrum, so the defence line had plenty of time to set. There was just nothing complicated about what Newcastle did. The defence simply fell off them, and Matthew Gidley scores the easiest of tries.
Well, John, it was just a simple case of throwing the ball out to the centre. It's a nice little step inside, but very good work by Gidley with the ball. He had the ball in the left hand, exchanged to the right hand, and vice versa, and went over for a very good try. It's been a very good start by the Knights.
You make the mistake in your own 22 or your own 20-metre area, and this is what happens. And Gidley just brushed aside. He's a very big centre, and he just pushed Hodgson away like he just was a fly that just careered around him and improved the position like all good try scorers should.
And very quickly the Knights are out to lead by 8 points to 0. And Andrew Johns trying to get them into double figures, and does so. 10-0, Newcastle lead Wests.
And the conversion successful to Andrew Johns.
And unless they really do put their noses to the grindstone, this is going to be a long winter's afternoon for the Magpies.
Well, it is, John. The unfortunate thing is that Western Suburbs down in their own territory were showing some good skills. They were prepared to throw the ball around and try a few things, but unfortunately from the forward pass they've let Newcastle in for another try.
O'Brien bringing it out almost to his own 30, Clinton O'Brien. Turned on the inside to Bill Peden. And put to ground by Tavita Ramon in the 15 for Wests, who's just come from the interchange bench. Butterfield again, trying to get past Tate Mosley. Left to Cherry Mesher to pull him to ground. O'Brien once more. So in this set of 6, we've seen O'Brien and Butterfield both hit it up twice. Now to Johns, turn quickly inside to Scott Connolly. Connolly gets to 15 metres out from the line. Hodgson and Brooker are there to put him to ground. Last coming up now for Newcastle from Andrew Johns. Matthew Johns in behind Robbie O'Davis, picked up by Hughes. Hughes puts it onto the right boot. Hodgson waits for it, takes it. He was taken out in the air. This will be a penalty. Hughes took him out in the air.
Come here, number 4. Come here, number 4.
Well, he's done it again, hasn't he, Hodgson? That was a great take.
Two strikes the legs and he's in the air, okay? Yep. Put on report by the referee for two reasons. He attacked the legs of the player, first of all, and then the player was in the air. Just feel sorry for this young bloke. You see this happen to him, perhaps not as serious as this, but you see him just in these situations almost in every game where he's so small, and when he is so small and has to put his body on the line so much and never flinches, he's going to get a pounding.
Well, he shows a lot of courage, and especially in that incident there where he left the ground to take that football. Let's hope that it's nothing too serious and he is able to come back out for the Magpies, because they do need him on the field.
Russell Fairfax will have a report on the condition of Brett Hodgson as soon as it's available from the Wests medical staff. Meanwhile, Wests have received the penalty, and this is Tavita Ramon. Ramon pushes away from Matthew Johns, and Johns immediately went to ground, clutching at either his left knee or ankle. I think it's his ankle that he's now holding on to. West, in the meantime, start to attack, getting a pass back on the inside. They're just up to the halfway mark. Ball played by Coxon. Now back to blindside from the McGuinness brothers, working in tandem with the pass going back on the inside from Kevin McGuinness, is taken by Danny Badiris.
Many jobs for the council, 10 minutes for people that make the council the place.
There it is again. Badiris put to ground by Georgalis and loses the ball in the tackle of Steve Georgalis.
That's true. That's right, it's not out. That's exactly right.
A scrum penalty. There is a rarity. Chalk that one up for the afternoon.
I think it's taken everyone by surprise, even the Newcastle defence. They weren't ready.
I haven't seen a referee do that for ages, the old feet across signal.
Feet across.
Well, that was the signal I used to give for feet across. Haven't seen it for years.
I thought it might have been for the halfback not feeding it in the middle.
I think he ruled that the ball wasn't out. It was kicked back into the scrum. So West's in possession. Dorahy able to give it away to Shane Perry. Perry's pass to Steve Georgalis. Georgalis is caught in the tackle of Rudd. Adam Perry. Now away to Dorahy. Dorahy's pass on to Chris Marland. Looking for a runner, that's Dorahy. Taken immediately, though, by Badiris. Here's the last coming up for the Magpies. Perry goes a few paces, grubbers into the in-goal. Albert is then beats one and is then knocked to ground in a hefty tackle by Adam Bristow. That's Bristow in the 16, and that will be on report for sure.
We'll see it here, John. I think in fairness...
It's a double whammy. He's ducked under one and copped the second.
I was going to say I thought Darren Albert may have been heading towards the ground, but, well, he did bend his knees a little, but still it was very high, and it will be on report by the referee.
Well, this is a result of taking no action down here when Hodgson got high. Western Suburbs have got very, very angry, and that is as a result of it. I had a look at the Western Suburbs camp. They would have liked to have seen the player that Hughes sent off for that tackle, but it's going to get fiery now, don't you worry.
Tell you what, that was Adam Bristow again, the player who's just been put on report, who went high on Paul Rahihi.
That's his turn.
He will have to be very careful, Adam Bristow.
It's amazing though, John, you see it every week in these games. When there's two or three in a tackle and one player goes high, nothing's said.
Robbie O'Davis running off a good pass from Steve Simpson and almost splitting them. 40 metres out from the West's line. Andrew Johns, the long pass to Gidley. Inside to Darren Albert. Albert sneaking away from Perry. Perry clutches to him with the aid of Jared Mills. Andrew Johns, again the long pass to Sean Rudder. Over the top for McDougall. Drags it in at the second attempt. Back to Rudder. Then to Andrew Johns. Sheds the first tackle. It's like touch football. Back over the top to Albert. Knocked down by Jared Mills. Dived on by Newcastle. That's a try.
Western Suburbs are slow to regroup. That's another example of it.
Russell, the other big thing, of course, that Newcastle are able to do when you have people like the Johns brothers in your lineup, those one or two passes that they can virtually cover the width of the field in two passes, and as we saw in that movement, they've spread it from wing to wing, and the defence simply wasn't able to regroup in time to get them.
There's a miss there. That should have been handled pretty easily. And now look at the defence coming across, just way too slow, not much communication. And even though he's tried to do the right thing, Jared Mills has just turned all out perfectly for the Knights.
Yeah, the thing that is helping the Knights is a feeble defence by Western Suburbs. As Russell said there was at least two guys that should have been put on the ground, and the West defence just fell off them.
Andrew Johns from the sideline this year has about a 33% record, and he's not going to improve on that. No goal by Andrew Johns, so 14 points to nil it is in favour of Newcastle.
And John, Western Suburbs might be very thankful that Andrew Johns is not kicking too well today by the end of this game.
Restart taken by Ken McGuinness. Matthew Gidley in possession, 22 from his own line. This is Paul Rahihi, who's a newcomer to the Newcastle side. He was with the Melbourne Storm, released by Melbourne, picked up immediately by Newcastle. Ball lost by Newcastle, put down by Brock Muller. Scrum feed will go the way of Wests.
West ball, West loose.
Could be a good buy for them, in fact, Paul Rahihi came from Auckland. Has played a few games with Melbourne's feeder club in the Queensland Cup competition this year, Norths, coached by the Queensland State of Origin coach Mark Murray, and has played extremely well. But given the strength of Melbourne's forward pack, they simply couldn't find a place for him. Could prove to be a very good buy for the Knights. Wests desperate to get points on the board. Turned back inside by Dale Bonner, trying to find a way up the middle of the Newcastle defence. Wasn't there. Mesha, a dummy half. On the bounce to Steve Georgalis. He misses out Coxon to pick up Brooker. Then is able to give his pass away to Kevin McGuinness. Dropped on the ground, knocked backwards, picked up by Georgalis. Then away to Dorahy. Dorahy's pass went to Ken McGuinness. Ruled to have travelled forward though. And it was, in fact, the referee could well have given a penalty for passing intentionally forward to a player in an offside position.
Well, geez, I think the Knights were lucky they didn't give a penalty away. 2 on the ball carrier, they stripped him. He didn't try to pass it. That was stripped by McDougall when Western Suburbs dropped it. So Newcastle, very lucky.
So the error count. West's down near the bottom, and they're not helping that stat this afternoon.
Well, John, the last time Western Suburbs got pinged for a forward pass, it cost them 6 points. Let's hope it doesn't do the same again.
McDougall chipping ahead and kicks a second time, and it will go touch and goal. The idea was right by Adam McDougall, almost paid off for him.
Geez, I think he heard you up there, Brett. I was contemplating a 6-pointer here, or at least a 4-pointer, just unlucky with the bounce, but you can't give McDougall any room. He's such a strong player that he's going to make it work every time.
Well, he certainly showed his strength there. He just out-muscled Kevin McGuinness. Unfortunately, he'll have to improve on his soccer skills.
Jared Mills put into touch. He stayed in the field of play the first time, and it wasn't that Darren Elbert had gone on with the tackle. It was simply as his momentum stopped, he then fell back over the touchline. Yes, he was still in the air as the tackle was being completed. Put into touch, which gives Newcastle the feed to this scrum. Warren Ryan, the Newcastle coach, you would think fairly happy with the way things are going at the moment. Against one of his former clubs, of course, the Magpies. McDougall again, isn't he a competitor?
Very strong competitor.
Steve Simpson, 30 metres out from the West's line. Johns. Got through Andrew Johns, then gives a pass which Mandelilis wasn't able to take. Ball to ground by Newcastle.
See, Western Suburbs have been hanging off Andrew Johns for most of this game. You just can't afford to do that. You start hanging off him, he's going to create holes, and that's exactly what he did then. Unfortunately, the pass went to ground.
Well, not only are they hanging off Johns, they're not moving up defensively. They're allowing Johns to run to the line, and that is trouble when you do that.
So West's just outside their own 20. Mosley, driven to ground, pushes the pass back, but they're losing ground as they do so, and Scott Coxon is thrown to ground, back on his own 20. Matthew Johns back onto to the bench. Suffered that ankle injury earlier in the game, Matthew Johns. Finding it so hard, Wests, to work out of their own area. Now the kick by Ken McGuinness. Robbie O'Davis with the kick return. The little semi-David Campese goose step. Darren Albert already scored one try this afternoon for the Novocastrians. Badiris. De Mandolidis. Former rugby union player Chris Mandolidis. Rahihi. 10 metres inside West's half. From Johns. Sean Rudder. That's better defence by West's. Driving Rudder back. Andrew Johns. Crossfield kick allowed to bounce. And a penalty will go to West's. Offside is the ruling against Billy Peden.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think maybe the referee may have picked the wrong player out, didn't realise it.
I think he has. That's what's happened. He's caught the
Billy
wrong
Peden
player, and it was
chasing,
bustling Billy Peden.
I wouldn't like to think that Coxon thought that Peden was offside. That's why he let the ball bounce.
It's about the only thing, well, if you can say that West are still in the game. If they are, the only thing keeping them there is a fair flow of the penalties. 4-2 in favour of the Magpies at the moment. Make that 5-2.
There's just a push in the back.
Just an update on Matthew Johns. He will be back on the paddock at some stage. He's just on standby. The ankle's a little bit sore, but he will be playing at some stage this afternoon.
Thanks, Russell. Well, I guess if the player does have an injury, at the moment, there's really no need to risk him, particularly when the scoreline shows 14-0, 15 minutes out from half-time. Dorahy back inside to Coxon. Runs into double trouble. Rahihi and Peden put him to ground. Georgalis to Justin Brooker. Knocked to ground by Georgalis, trying to wrap around him.
John, I think you'll see Western Suburbs are starting to get frustrated with this Newcastle defence. And they're just trying to unload balls at every opportunity, and unfortunately that's not coming off for them. But I think what West have got to do is just settle down. They have 2 or 3 hit-ups in the forwards and then throw the ball wide. At the moment, they're trying to throw the ball around too much.
Yeah, you're right, Brett. And plus their completion rates. They're trying to move the ball too much, and that's forcing the drop balls. Give a rap to the Newcastle defence. It's fantastic. But the completion rate, I think they might have completed about 2 of their sets, and that's just not enough. Well, there you go. There's the completion rate. Not even half of what they're looking for.
O'Brien. Caused them a lot of trouble today, Clinton O'Brien. It's just short of halfway. His partner in crime, Tony Butterfield.
Yeah, John, see, Newcastle have settled down a lot now. You notice that their big men are taking the ball forward, 2 or 3 rucks, and then the Johns brothers will take over.
And a penalty goes to Newcastle. You have to say that was a crowd penalty. The moment they started to yell, the arm went up from referee Matt Hewitt. But they've lost the ball on the first tackle, Newcastle. So West's in possession on their own 20. From Ken McGuinness, over the top of brother Kevin. This is Coxon. Kevin McGuinness. Matthew Johns. still being given attention by the medical staff. Ken McGuinness with Jared Mills on the short side from Steve Georgalis. Justin Brooker cutting back infield. Dane Doherty slung to ground. Right on halfway, Doherty will play it on the last now for the Magpies. Ken McGuinness's kick, one bouncing into touch.
McGuinness has hurt himself making that kick too. Copped the tackle, wasn't all that late, but he's got a bad limb. It looks like he wants to come off. That'll be a blow. We need big men on big men out wide, and when you look at Gidley and Hughes, they need him.
Particularly as they've already lost Brett Hodgson. So Ken McGuinness limping to the touchline, where Shane Perry will come on and replace him, as Newcastle have won this scrum, and Sean Rudder is tackled on his own 30. Peden playing it. So we see Ken McGuinness now being assisted to the bench by the trainers. Butterfield. Tackle made on him by Mesha. Scott Connolly. Here's the last for Newcastle in the clutches of Andrew Johns. And again, that high ball swirling for Shane Perry, but he did well to take it. Almost pushed back in goal, though, in the tackle of Gidley. Talented player, Shane Perry. Came to Wests this year from the Logan City Club in Queensland, where he won the award last year as the player of the season for the Queensland Cup competition. Not just the player for Logan City, he was the player of the competition. Has a lot of skills, Shane Perry. It's taken a little while, I think, to settle down to the coaching of Tom Raudonikis. But at his best, he's a player with a lot of promise.
He certainly showed some good skills there, John, and taking that ball, actually looking back over his head. It was a fantastic...
Well, we put the mocker on him just as we talk about him under pressure. That kick off the boot of Shane Perry has gone into touch on the full. I'll blame that down to you, Brett Kenny. You're the black mock. You were talking about him at the time.
I'll blame Billy Peden.
Newcastle immediately back on the attack. Danny Badiris goes from dummy half and loses it. Picked up by Wests in goal, but the referee will put the scrum down for the knock-on, the initial knock-on by Danny Badiris. It'll be a scrum 10 metres out with a Wests feed.
John, I think that'll be the disappointing thing for Warren Ryan, is the fact that while Newcastle are going okay, they are dropping a lot of ball, and a lot of ball that they're making a lot of mistakes where they're not forced errors. They're sort of unforced errors, and I think he'll be very disappointed about that side of the game at half-time.
Without wanting to detract from Wests, I wonder, Brett and Russell, is that simply because they're trying to do a lot more against a side like West than perhaps they would do with a side further up the competition ladder?
Yeah, fair point, Macker. I think you're pretty much on the money. I think that they believe they can score almost at will, and that's how they're playing this game. If it was a much tighter game, much tougher opposition, Badiris wouldn't have coughed that ball up on the line. You can bet your bottom dollar.
Perry turning it back to Amone. Tavita Amone almost to halfway. Matt Spence. Last coming up now for the Magpies. Chris Marlin kicking out of dummy half, in behind McDougall. Adam McDougall takes them on, almost got through the first line, then finds a rampaging Robbie O'Davis. O'Davis being chased by Doherty. He stepped inside Doherty, still looking for support, gave it back on the outside to Mark Hughes. Brilliant try, Newcastle. Robbie O started it, Mark Hughes finishes it. Champagne football by the Newcastle Knights.
You can see his player, Hughes, just coming on his outside, and Hughes just comes round and improves the position. All right, that'll make it 20-0.
Try converted by Andrew Johns. 20 points to 0 it is in favour of Newcastle.
Conversion to Joey Johns. The Renison Central City Hotel.
Excellent try by the Knights. And as you said, Russell, you have to give a lot of credit there originally to McDougall, the way he was just able to delay that pass. So he had really committed both of the defenders. And when he did so, of course, there was just clear space in front of Robbie O'Davis. Excellent try by the Knights. 8 minutes before half-time, 20 points to 0 it is in favour of Newcastle. Gidley to play it. Tony Butterfield bounced away from Brooker. Can't get away from Mills and Mosley. Sean Rudder. Held out in the tackle. Penalty goes the way of the Knights. So they go back on the attack, Newcastle, and on tackle number 1, they're only 30 metres out from the line. O'Brien, a quick play, the ball to Badouris, to O'Brien on the blind side, to Gidley. He lost it behind him, went into the clutches of Robbio. Badouris to Butterfield. Andrew Johns looks for a runner on the inside. It's O'Davis. O'Davis says, well, I set up a try. It's about time I scored one myself, and he comes only centimetres short of doing so. Quick play the ball to Badouris, then away to Andrew Johns. Johns quickly gives it away to Connolly, then to Gidley. Matthew Gidley stepping his way back into centre field, where he's driven the ground by Mesher. This is the last now for Newcastle. 10 metres out from the line, brilliantly picked up Andrew Johns. That kick is going to be fielded though by Weston. Shane McMenemy comes up with it for the Mangs.
I think they'll be very disappointed with this. It was a bad pass, well picked up, but that's not what he wanted. He wanted a good pass. He had the little kick worked out, and unfortunately because of the pass, it brought it all undone.
So finding it hard once more, Wests, to work it out of their own 20. Tate Mosley, 24 metres out from his own line on tackle number 4. Matt Spence. And the last coming up, Kevin McGuinness throws his pass back inside for Dale Bonner. The front row forward is forced to kick. This is McDougall. Got away from 2 from Marland and McGuinness. Then is put to ground in the tackle of Kevin McGuinness and gets a penalty.
Well, West are in trouble when you see a front rower kicking. And I think they're going to be made to pay again right now.
Some of these penalties that they're giving away are just silly penalties. I mean, it's just kid stuff, and it makes you wonder why these guys continually do things like this. They're just putting themselves under more pressure, and here we are again.
Stripping the ball. This time against Dale Bonner. 2 in the tackle, Bonner and Georgalis. Bonner reefs the ball out. The Knights only 11 metres out from the line. Oh, O'Davis. I don't know who that was intended for. Sean Rudder picked it up eventually.
Peter Brady.
O'Brien. Caught by Mosley, couldn't unload his pass. Badouris was there in support. It's with Badouris now, who runs it from dummy half and then slips. Quick play the ball. Connolly. Connolly grubbers it into the in goal. Knocked over the dead ball line by Jared Mills. Goal line dropout coming up for the Magpies.
Well, it's not bad play by Newcastle. Brought it back to short side. Nice little kick through. Not a great deal of pressure there, but forced the Western Suburbs side to have another line drop out and have to make another 6 tackles.
Yeah, I think you're right, Brett. The beauty of that, they get the ball back, but it was a very soft option, wasn't it? They had numbers out to the left, and Western Suburbs couldn't match them for numbers. Soft option, but they will get another shot.
Good sign for West. Ken McGuinness, who was assisted to the sideline a few minutes ago, returning to the field now and seems to be running fairly freely. Dropout only went 32 metres. Peden tackled 31 out on the first. To O'Brien. Goes looking for work today, Clinton O'Brien. So does this fella, Robbie O'Davis. Just loves running off the big blokes. Butterfield getting his pass back inside to Badiris. Again to O'Davis. Now away to O'Brien. It's like a hot potato. Who wants it this time? Kevin McGuinness says, I'll have it. We'll try and do something with it. Can they put something on the board in the first half, Western Suburbs? Perry running it wide for Brooker. Dragged to ground a few metres short of halfway. Justin Brooker. Penalty against the tacklers, just going on with the tackle. Dane Dora, he only finds a few metres with that kick. Didn't have much of an angle to work with. Tavita Ramon gets over halfway. Georgalis back into traffic. Clinton O'Brien was just standing there waiting for him. Mesha to Mosley. Back inside to Kevin McGuinness. Then to Matt Spence. Decides to have a run himself, Spence. Tackle 30 metres out from the line. Perry calling Coxon back on his inside. Then gives it to Georgalis. Brooker can't take it. Went behind him. Mills dives on it. No knock on. Jared Mills to play the ball. Brooker from dummy half to Shane Perry. Turns it to Coxon coming straight. Last tackle now coming up for Wests. From Mesha back to Dorahy. Dorahy got in behind one of his own players before he put his kick in for Adam McDougall. Then to O'Davis. Beat Amone, beat Spence. Can't get away from Marland. Adam McDougall once more outside his own 20. Inside the last 30 seconds of this first half. Brock Muller to play the ball for Newcastle. Now to Andrew Johns, to Gidley. Oh, did well to take that. Brilliantly taken, Matthew Gidley. And then expertly picked up by Johns. Away to Darren Elbert. Luckily for Jared Mills, he got him. Johns chips over the top of the line. No one back there. Gets the bounce, Andrew Johns. And then kicks ahead. Now I think that Adam McDougall is offside. It's not going to matter anyway. Over the touchline, but I'm sure he was in front of Andrew Johns. Half time here at Newcastle.
I thought Johns may have looked to throw the long pass here.
Oh, well, I take that back. When you see that...
Oh, half a metre.
No, I don't know about that. I think we're wrong. I think we're wrong.
We're never wrong.
When I looked, he was well and truly in front of him. But when you see where the speed he was using when he actually kicked, he was probably just behind him. So, half-time here at Newcastle. It's all the Knights, and they lead Western Suburbs by 20 points to nil at Marathon. Back shortly for the second half. Was back onto the bench just before half-time. Russell Fairfax reporting that he could be used if needed. We'll wait and see. Probably be surprising if he was when you're leading 20 points to nil and there isn't the need to really risk him. So the second half underway. Billy Peden having his special day today, his 100th first grade game, Billy Peden. And as they work it out in their first set of 6, we'll take your sideline, Russell Fairfax, with what the coaches had to say at the half-time break.
Well, it was tough getting into either dressing room with Warren Ryan and Tom Rodonigas. Warren Ryan, though, he's really pushing home the fact they want a naught scoreline. They want to keep Western Suburbs scoreless, and he said, forget about the touch football, fellas. Let's get fair dinkum. Tom Rodonigas, well, he was ranting and raving in his one. He is so upset about the one-on-one defence. He said, you need to take your man. He's implored, well, he's begged them to use the kicking game, play the game down the Newcastle end, and he wants his side to go for broke in attack, so we may see some very loose football in this half from Western Suburbs.
Thanks, Russell. Yeah, quite a battle as far as the coaches go, because they are very, very good mates, Tom Rodonigas and Warren Ryan, remembering that Tom Rodonigas played in a grand final, side coached by Warren Ryan for Newtown, the day that they had the chance to go out in glory, because they were wiped from the competition just after it, Brett Kenny, but your Parramatta Eels just put them away. But it was a very good final that day.
Well, it certainly was, and of course Tommy's quarter tried just after half-time, which put Newtown back into the game, but Yeah, you know, he's going to be a little bit disappointed with the first half performance of the Magpies, but they've just got to throw the ball around, as he says, but they've got to control it as well, which is something they didn't do in the first half.
Yes, there was a special day for Parramatta, given it was their first ever grand final, the first of 3 in a row. Here's Adam McDougall. McDougall, tough fella to bring down. Still going, McDougall, only a couple of metres short of halfway where he played it to O'Davis. Now to Steve Simpson. That's the halfway marking screen. Andrew Johns working it in behind the line to pick up Paul Rahihi. Simpson. Caught by Georgialis. Chris Marland in 17 coming over the top to complete the tackle. John showing it to the inside, then back to the outside to O'Davis. Oranges back over the top and then lost. O'Davis didn't look when he threw that ball. Just thought, well, somebody's going to be back on the inside to pick that ball up for us. Billy Peden was there but wasn't able to hold it. Wests. Scott Coxon. Perry. No runner coming off him, Shane Perry. Just a mix-up in their attack, Wests, and he had to run himself, which he didn't intend to do.
Yeah, you'd think Western Suburbs are winning, wouldn't you? There's no urgency in their play. They are behind 20 points to nil. They want to get back into this match. They've really got to come on very strong. Yeah, I'll be very keen, and they're just not at this stage.
Well, they've lost the ball now. Picked up immediately by Steve Simpson. Simpson starting to show a clean pair of heels to the defence and was run down eventually by Jared Mills, but they're up inside the 20 once more. Cut-out pass out to Johns. Johns fires it wide to Mark Hughes. Hughes goes himself and will scramble over and score. The old three-card trick by Mark Hughes. All of the Western Suburbs defenders were watching Adam McDougall cutting back inside, knowing that he was the man, or thinking he was the man that was going to get it. And Mark Hughes, the old thimble and pea trick, fooled them all.
This is where it should have been cut down. Johns was grabbed. They should have wrapped the ball up. He was allowed to get this long pass, cut out about 3 players, and put them onto a one-on-one situation. The decoy inside. Georgialis, well, he just let him go, and there was no stopping him, grabbing a double. He'll be happy with today's performance.
Happy in that regard, but of course he is on report for that tackle earlier on Brett Hodgson, which could put a dampener on his day. Here's the kick by Johns. That looks better. Over by Joey Johns. And Newcastle pick up in the second half where they left off in the first, leading now by 26 points to nil.
And a successful conversion to Andrew Johns.
Maybe he's got his kicking boots on for the second half, John. An ominous sign for the Magpies.
Here at Marathon Stadium. The Radisson Central City Hotel Newcastle wind-up.
So really dictating terms, Andrew Johns, while his brother Matthew, as we just saw, sitting on the sideline, still getting some attention on that ankle injury of his. Paul Rahihi. He's a tough-looking rooster, isn't he? I'd hate to run in.
With a name like that, you'd have to be.
Hate to run into him on a dark night somewhere. Scott Conley. 12 metres short of halfway. Well picked up, Billy Peden. Now to Johns. Steps off that left foot. Steps again. Then picks up Robbie O'Davis in broken play. Brilliantly turned. Back on the inside to Scott Conley. Here's the race for the ball. It'll be won by Wests. Dane Dorahy getting back for it. Second time, though, in the space of a few minutes, we've seen Robbie O'Davis throw one of those oranges, they used to always call it. Just throw it in the air and hope someone gets it.
Well, they've certainly lifted a gear, haven't they, Newcastle? This is the Newcastle that we're used to seeing week in, week out. It was very good play, a very good kick and a good chase, and they're going to put more pressure on the Magpies again. And I just don't think the Magpies can hold out for another 6 tackles.
Is the word from Matt Hewitt?
You don't have to be Einstein to work that out, either, John.
What about that? He said, I'll penalise anyone who doesn't stay behind the kicker, and about 4 of them raced in front of the kicker. So much for listening and taking note of what the referee had to say. Adam McDougall. McDougall, good run by McDougall. 15 out from the line, and Danny Badiris takes it to 5 metres out. Right in centre field. Dangerous again, Newcastle. Johns reverses back to the right-hand side to Sean Rudder. Back to Connolly, then to Peden. Had he taken it, he would have been hard to stop. He's knocked it on. It will be a West scrum feed, 10 out from their own line.
Well, this was a reverse play from Johns, back inside. There was a pass. Well, it wasn't probably the easiest ball to be taken, but should have been taken. They've done it again, Newcastle. Let themselves down again in a good attacking position.
Jared Mills playing it, 12 out from his own line. This is Bristow. Steve Georgalis, the West's captain. Pass to absolutely nobody.
It's that man Peter Brady again.
Chris Marland eventually gets it for Wests. He's having a good game, Brady.
Yeah.
Just about their best. Getting lots of mentions. 15 inside their own half, Wests. Georgalis with the kick. It was touched by Newcastle, so they're all onside the West's chasers. McDougall, though, gets back for it. Jared Mills winning. Well, eventually they do win a battle on McDougall. They're able to drive him back about 12 metres from where he got the ball, and that is a rarity. Darren Elbert, the other Newcastle winger, got it away to O'Davis. O'Davis put over by Dorahy. That was a tackle that had to be made. There was just clear space in front of him had they not got him. Now Rahihi. Tate Mosley goes up high to pull him to ground.
Tristan Fleming, could you please get back to your group? Tristan Fleming, back to your group, please.
Scott Simpson, 22 out. Rudder's pass on the bounce to Johns. Thrown in front of Gidley, picked up by Elbert. He was hoping that Gidley would have gone around him to the outside. He didn't. This is the last now for Newcastle. Johns. That high swirling kick into the in goal, this time taken on the full by Ken McGuinness, and so Wests bring it out to the 20 to restart.
Well, a poor finish there for a very good set of 6 by the Newcastle Knights. It just released all the pressure they had on Western Suburbs then. It was far too long, that kick.
Crowd of just over 14,000 here today. In fact, 14,869. That's the lowest crowd of the season for the Newcastle Knights. 14,869. Previous lowest this year was 16,500 against North Queensland. So 14,869 here to see their Newcastle Knights really putting the cleaners through Wests at the moment, leading 26 points to 0.
John, only 14,000, but Western Suburbs would like to have that as their home crowd, especially next week against the Sydney City Roosters. 2 losing sides. Western Suburbs would be delighted to have that many turn up to a game.
Yeah, that's a home game for Wests against Sydney City next Saturday afternoon. Now here's Cherry Mesher running it on the last. McGuinness can't take it. It's a changeover being on the last. It's knocked on by Wests. Newcastle to play the ball 30 out from their own line.
Well, John, just watching Western Suburbs play today, we see that was a bad pass, and there just seems to be a lack of communication between a lot of the players. We saw the pass there that was thrown into McGuinness. We've seen other guys looking to pass the ball. Tommy Donick is there on the two-way again. I don't think he'd have that two-way away from his ear. He'd be up there all the time.
Get up and get away.
And here, another silly penalty. I mean, Western Suburbs just can't afford to keep giving penalties away like this. 3 in the tackle. Surely they can get up now without any problems. They just refuse to let the player go.
Andrew Johns finding touch. 30 out from the West's line. Tapped by Badiris, then away to Johns, and that long wide pass out wide to Gidley. Matthew Gidley stays just in the field of play. Chris Mandalidis inside the West's 20 to Clinton O'Brien. O'Brien running straight at Coxon and Mosley. Scott Coxon makes the tackle on him. Now to Johns. Andrew Johns getting into space, gives it back to Danny Medeiros. Medeiros would scoot straight through a gap. It opened up for him like Sydney heads, and underneath the post he goes, Danny Medeiros, to score a try that gets Newcastle into the 30s.
Well, there was nothing on. Andrew Johns here looking to throw the ball out wide. Couldn't do anything. Back inside to Medeiros. Just poor defence. Poor defence, not moving up and communicating and taking the man with the ball.
What do they always say? Don't fall for the dummy ball. There's the biggest one I've seen today, and two guys fell for it. Medeiros, as you said, just excited to be a part of that as it opened up like never before.
Danny Medeiros, the try scorer. Andrew Johns converts from in front. 32 points to 0 it is. I just saw one of the West officials before the game ask me, said, I haven't been down to do a game at Campbelltown this year. Will I come down next week? I think I will be on their barred list, Western Suburbs. I think this is the third game that I've had to call at West this year. One was in Perth when they got beaten 60-something to 6. Brisbane and Wests where it was 50 points to 0. And now today, and it's 32 points to 0. I think I will be definitely off their Christmas card list.
You might get some death threats later.
I think they'll be saying, please, just stay away from us. Would you have nothing at all to do with us? 32-0. Newcastle working it out from their own 20. Brock Muller to play the ball. Call for by Johns. Again spread wide. Sean Rudder looking for a runner on the outside. Played back now to Rudder. Links up with Darren Albert. Jaron Mills makes the 4th tackle of this set. Medeiros' pass. Clinton O'Brien lumbers it inside West's territory. Now the last. Rudder, the second rower with that high kick. Bounces away from Dorahy. Johns chases. Got around him the first time, stays just in the field of play as he's put to ground by Rohihi. And going in also into the tackle was Adam McDougall. Scott Coxon on his own 20. Jaron Mills. Mills to play it. Mesha goes from dummy half. Tackled on number 4. Now to Vita Ramon, but it's all just one-out stuff by West. There's just no pattern to their attack. And this is the last coming up.
They're not running with support either, John, and that makes it very difficult to put the defence in two minds.
Shane Perry's kick. One of the few things that's gone West's way all day. Robbie O'Davis getting a pat on the back from Darren Albert.
Well, it wasn't a bad kick.
All of the Newcastle crowd probably were happy to see him do that the other night in the State of Origin. They're not happy to see him do it today.
It's probably something you wouldn't see from Robbie O'Davis in another 12 months, but maybe the luck may have swung around to the Western Suburbs. Let's hope they can come up with a 4-pointer, possibly a 6.
Well, one of their best attacking opportunities, Wests. Georgialis working a blindside move with Mills. Mesha gets up inside the 20. Tackle number 2. Haven't been inside Newcastle's 20 with 4 tackles to go on many occasions this game. Dale Bonner. Pass comes loose. Dived on by Tavita Ramon. Tackle count restarts for them. So this will be the first. That's tackle number 1. 9 metres from the line now, Wests. Play the ball to Mesha. Then the wide pass to pick up Shane Perry. Inside to Kevin McGuinness. He's held on to in the tackle of Hughes and McDougall.
One thing, John, I think Western Suburbs are throwing the ball too wide too early in the tackle count. They're not trying to tighten up the Newcastle defence.
Shane Perry kicking earlier in the tackle count. Picked up by Robbie O'Davis. Pushed back into the in goal. No, he's not. He stayed just in the field of play. The referee ruled so they can play the ball.
That was a poor option then by Perry. I mean, admittedly, the first kick he made, Robbie O'Davis knocked the ball over the sideline, but I don't think Robbie O'Davis was going to make too many mistakes with a kick like that.
That was a class piece of play by O'Davis. He would have been caught over his own line, but he moved the ball into his other hand, and that was outside the try line.
O'Davis's pass picked up by Dane Dorahy. Dorahy gives it away to Davida Ramon. Ramon tries to straighten up the attack and then loses the ball. Picked up by Scott Connolly, Newcastle ball.
John, they had to throw the ball wide then. Ramon had to throw it. He should never have taken them on himself. A three-man overload.
O'Brien. Clinton O'Brien on his own 30. Dale Bonner, the tackler.
14,869. Well done, Newcastle.
Scott Simpson plays the ball to Johns, to Gidley, then hoping to link up with Darren Elbert. Couldn't take the pass. The Newcastle flyer and over the touchline.
Well, again, one of these passes has gone to that man, Peter Brady. He's everywhere.
Warren Ryan will be scratching his head. A side like Newcastle, they've been mentioned as favourites, perhaps not the favourite, but favourites to take out the competition. Warren Ryan won't be happy that they can't put this Western Suburbs Magpie team to bed. They should be comfortable in this second half, but I think they've just scored a couple since the break, and they've had a lot of chances.
Exactly right, Russell. I mean, I think you've got to look into next week. All right, they've got this game won and they're doing it pretty comfortably, but they play North Sydney away next week, and that's not going to be an easy game. And I just don't think Newcastle can afford to run around in today's game taking things too easily and throwing bad passes and becoming unsettled when they've got a game like North Sydney next week.
Yeah, an opportunity to hit some up hard and tough up the middle, get some combination in their forwards, but yet all they're doing is looking to Johns and going wide at every opportunity.
Last coming up for the Magpies, 25 out from the Newcastle line. Dane Dorahy with the right foot kick, putting it across towards Darren Elbert. He flies for it, comes down the way of Steve Georgalis. It was on the last, so it'll be a changeover.
Gee, I thought that was 6 again.
Well, I did too, because I definitely thought there was a Newcastle hand in this, somewhere along the line. Referee saw differently. Yeah, I thought Elbert got a touch for that. But the referee ruled that he didn't, that it was only touched by Wests. So Newcastle bringing it up now from their own 20. Scott Simpson, as the chant goes up from the 14,500 for Newcastle. Newcastle. Fantastic supporters they are here in Newcastle. They just simply love their rugby league, and they love the good side that they've got as Gidley gives this pass to Elbert. He holds on to this one and gets away from Mills. He's still running. Getting close to the line, held on to only centimetres short, Darren Elbert. Haven't they got two good finishers, Newcastle, in Elbert and McDougall? Pass to Badiris. Tried to kick it, had an air swing at it, but they're going to get a penalty anyway. Just a little over-enthusiastic, the Magpies, and up inside the 10.
Do you think Newcastle will go for the 2 points, John?
No. In a word, no. Robbie O'Davis decides he'll have a crack at it himself. 3 metres from the line is where he'll play it. Badiris looking for a runner. Chris Mandelitis 1 metre out. From Badiris away to Johns. Johns gives his pass on to Scott Connolly, who's in for another one. His second try of the day, Scott Connolly. Not trying to detract from Scott Connolly's attacking ability, but they have been 2 relatively easy tries that he's been on the end of.
Yes, I guess this had to come. Here was the initial break there by Gidley. Gives the ball to Darren Albert. Did very well here, Albert. He should have been put on the ground at least half a dozen times. Finally went down half a metre short. Because on the ensuing play, it was just a simple pass. They rushed up Western Suburbs. Weren't man on man. Johns just put him straight through the gate.
Such a wonderful player, Andrew Johns. In fact, he leads going into round 17 the most try assists in the NRL competition. 16 times he's put players over for tries so far this season. And another one to the list after that try to Scott Connolly.
Is it any wonder players stand around outside?
Yeah. Oh, he's a wonderful player. There's no doubt at all about it. The kick by Johns, successful. 38 points to 0 it is in favour of Newcastle, and we've still got 17.5 minutes remaining.
And a successful conversion to Andrew
Well,
Johns.
this is just as simple as perfection. All the players just run into the holes, and Johns finds them, and he can do that all day, every day.
Isn't that so true, Russell? If you run into the hole, the ball will be put right on your chest for you by Andrew Johns.
He does it just every day. I'm sure he does it in his sleep. He's perfect at it.
Yeah, he is. Just beautiful to watch, isn't he? Just does it so easily. 38-0. West's on the end of another shellacking, but let's hope that over the last 17 minutes they really don't throw the towel in and do have a dig for their coach Tommy Radonicus. Second tackle, just on their own 20. Tony Butterfield gets to his feet to play the ball. Badiris struggling out of dummy half. Rudder makes an easy 12 metres straight through the middle of the ruck, Sean Rudder. Now Paul Rahihi gets his way up to the halfway mark. Last coming up for the Knights. Johns takes it in so well, chips over the top of the line, regathers, kicks ahead again for the flying Adam McDougall. McDougall gets it, gets to his feet, inside to Mark Hughes. Oh, he scores his third try of the afternoon. He is a genius, Andrew Johns. The defence mightn't be all that crash hot, but you've still got to do the work, you've still got to have the skills, and he has got every skill and every trick in the book. He is a brilliant, brilliant player.
Yes, he has got all the skills, and this is just one of them. That's a perfect little chip over the top, and again, putting in the long kick for Adam McDougall, almost got the perfect bounce. Played it very well, didn't panic, had plenty of support, and Hughes. 3 tries.
Well, Hughes gets his third try, but this is all Johns. And what about the vision he shows? Firstly, to find the hole, and then out of the corner of his eye, he sees there's no one on McDougall. All McDougall has to do is run, pick it up, and McDougall, unselfish, finds him inside. He won't have an easier day at the office, Mark Hughes, than this one.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is that Andrew Johns may not be credited as a try assist there.
Well, I can tell you that our statistician has already put him down as one try assist.
There we go.
Yes, he's in the book. Ian's ticked him off. Great player. He is just an absolute delight to watch.
Can't kick goals out of it.
No. Can't kick the saviours, though, can he? 42 points to 0. Mark Hughes, his third try of the afternoon, doubles his season tally, takes him up to 6 for the season. But he just does it so easily, Andrew Johns. Here it is again. Did well to take the ball in, beautiful chip, regathers immediately and then just drops it onto the foot, all in the one motion, and positions it just immaculately for the chase of Adam McDougall. It was well picked up, yeah.
There's a lot of skill there, but and of course there is a certain amount of skill in being able to put that kick over the top and have the ball come back to you. I mean, there's not too much luck involved, it's skill.
Yes, a lot of people may think that it was just a lucky bounce, but it doesn't. They work and work and work on it almost every day at training to make sure it's that way. Scott Coxon. Well, can they put some points on the board, Wests? 13.5 minutes remaining. Matt Spence put to ground, tough tackle, Paul Rahihi. Cherry Mesha, 22 out from the Newcastle line. Back again to Matt Spence. This pass has come back to Steve Georgalis. Able to turn it back to Perry. Now to Mosley. Tate Mosley runs it to the line. The Newcastle defence holds. Perry Has Georgalis with him, elects to give it to McGuinness, then it went back to Perry. He's got Brooker on his outside and tried to link up with Mills. Brooker picks it up, but it had been knocked on. The look on the Tommy Rodonicus, they said us it all.
Well, you've got to give it to Western Suburbs. They are trying things. Just a matter of taking the eyes off the ball and just looking to see who was going to make the tackle.
Interesting thing about West, when you look at the stats of the day, is that in fact they've offloaded on more occasions than Newcastle. 19 offloads to 17, but the line breaks are 11-0 in favour of Newcastle. So you might offload, but they were going nowhere when they were doing it.
That's the thing, John, isn't it? They weren't going anywhere. They weren't constructive offloads. They were just passing the ball to someone that was there in support, unfortunately not going forward. The thing that's impressed me about Newcastle today is not so much their attack. We all know they can attack. We see them make another break through Billy Peden.
Billy Peden, his 100th first grade game, and he'd love to score a try to cap it off. He won't get it this time. They're on the last, Newcastle, looking to bring up the 50 points in this game. Kick back into the in goal, going back forward is Kevin McGuinness. The chasers come down after him. He'll be held on to and dragged to ground by Brock Muller. It'll be a goal line dropout by Wests. As you were saying, Brett Kenny.
Well, as I was saying, John, it's their defence that has impressed me by Newcastle. We all know they can attack, and they've scored some great tries out here today, but some of their defence has been outstanding, and especially their scrambling defence. Western Suburbs have had some opportunities to possibly post some points on the board, but the scrambling defence by Newcastle has been outstanding today.
42 points to nil in favour of Newcastle. Just over 11 minutes remaining. Peden on the kick return. Stands and unloads to Robbie O'Davis. Steps off the right foot, gets to the 20 of the Magpies. Paul Rahihi got past Bristow, couldn't get away from Marlin. 11 metres from the line. Now to Johns. This time reverses it to Sean Rudder in centre field, and Rudder! Oh my goodness, he went straight through Matt Spence's tackle, and that's his third try of the afternoon. Matt Spence, that was disgraceful. Hanging out the washing on the line. Just, got to have a go.
Well, there's no excuse for this type of defence. I mean, it was a man-on-man. It was a reverse play again. Nearly took out Tony Butterfield's head. One-on-one, went high.
Well, he hangs his head in shame, Matt Spence, and so he should. That was just dreadful.
If you're a forward, these are the tries you love to score. You get in your hand, the big palm, and then it just, well, there's no one in front of him. You can see by the smile on his face, as soon as he put the palm out, he knew he was going to score.
It's just not right, all these forwards, John, scoring all these tries. What happened to the backs?
And yet another try assist by Andrew Johns, let me tell you. Poor old statistician. He's gone. He's got writer's cramp.
Surprise, surprise, he's kicked the goal.
He's earned his money today, Ian Collis, the stats man, let me tell you. All in shorthand too today. The computer's broken down for him, but it's all in the mind.
Well, John, you mentioned earlier on, you asked the question whether Western Suburbs can put some points on the board. I think now the question is whether Newcastle can reach 50. They've got just over 9 minutes to achieve that.
I'd like to be as sure as I am of him getting 50 as I would of winning goal lotto. You did right. So a very big win coming up for Newcastle, and will be their biggest of the year. Their previous best was against Newcastle, 26 points to 2 at Parramatta Stadium. That was in round 5 of the competition. But a crushing victory coming up today against the poor old hapless Magpies. 48-0, 8.5 minutes remaining, and they're simply toying with them. Here's Tony Butterfield. Inside West's territory by a couple of metres. Johns to McDougall. Lost ball, Adam McDougall, and a scrum feed to Wests.
I think the pass was just slightly behind him. And I think just as he was about to place the ball into the left arm, he lost control.
You paid credit to the Newcastle defence, Brett, and to be fair, Newcastle haven't allowed West to even look like sniffing out a point so far in this game.
Yeah, John, that's why I say that's the most impressive part of this game for Newcastle is their defence. And
well, as we speak, Justin Brooker makes a bust. He's being chased by the flying machine, Darren Elbert, who drags him down from behind. That was their best chance. Quick play the ball. Now away to Ken McGuinness. McGuinness switches his pass back inside to McMenemy, then to McGuinness. McGuinness away to Marland. Marland on to Bristow, turns his pass back inside to Coxon, and it comes to nothing. Picked up by Newcastle, and they turn defence into attack.
Geez, we're good, John, aren't we? We're just saying how well
we can
the defence is.
get one out. We can pick them out, can't we? Newcastle 10 inside their own half. The coach Warren Ryan of Newcastle looking at the stat sheet, or the missed tackles. Just reads like a bad dream for Wests. 25 missed tackles by the Magpies, 5 by Newcastle. 25 missed tackles. Is there any wonder the score is 48-0?
John, I think Warren Ryan would be a lot happier with the second half of this half, because Newcastle have settled down a little and they're starting to play more of the Newcastle style that we're used to seeing. They're not throwing the ball around too much, but they're making sure their passes and they're controlling the play.
Look at that, brilliantly taken in by Johns. Gee, did well, just fires it away so easily. Sean Rudder's kick.
Look, they score.
Bounces up for Johns. Johns puts it down underneath the post. And the referee is going to call on Noel Bissett, who's the video ref, to see whether or not the 50 has been registered. If it is, Andrew Johns will be the try scorer.
Well, it was just a case of the Newcastle throwing the ball around and the last man decided to put up the kick. And he got the good bounce.
Just on, they were on the last when he ran it. The brilliant bit of work, as we just watch again, the kick by Rudder, and Johns on that angle. No, it's
line ball.
Sometimes can be deceiving, those angles, but it's very much line ball. Maybe he was just a fraction offside.
Yeah, I think you're right, Macca. I think the video referee will find that he's offside. Some luck has got to go Western Suburbs' way. This might be their one piece today.
But when you look at that, Andrew Johns threw the ball back. The ball went back again to Rudder. So Andrew Johns, you would think, would be in front from the start.
Yeah, he just looks to be perhaps a half a metre closer to that 20-metre line than was Sean Rudder.
Well, Andrew Johns got an assist on Rudder's try. Now Rudder was trying to assist Andrew Johns on his. But I don't think he'll get it.
Noel Bissett says he was offside, so it remains 48 points to 0, and Wests get the penalty. Just the way, though, when Andrew Johns, on that last tackle, took a pass which was a little just to the side of him, just dragged it in so easily, and then got rid of it in the one motion.
It's things that he does in most games, and I think people just accept that as Andrew Johns, and you've really got to sit down and take note of it and realise that he is an exceptional player, and the things that he does, while we're used to seeing it week in, week out, are just something that only not even a handful of players are capable of doing.
48-0. 5 minutes remaining. Justin Brooker runs from dummy half for Wests.
Let it go, Daddy. Let it go. Come back. Come back.
McMenemy giving his pass away to Scott Coxon.
Third now. Here I am. Let it go, Billy.
Cherry Mesher Runs down the blind side, gets into some open space. O'Davis just slowed him down enough for Steve Simpson to make the tackle. To Perry. Then Georgalis and then Bristow. And Georgalis. Back across field to Shane Perry, but they're not going forward. Scott Coxon, this time he's able to put Chris Marland into a gap. He will score, Chris Marland. That'll bring a cheer, I'm sure, even from the parochial Newcastle supporters. Chris Marland scores the try. It's been 75 minutes in coming, but they're on the board, the Maggies, 48-4 with the kick to come.
It wasn't a bad try. This is a great break by Messer. Straight up the middle, run from dummy half. Got away from O'Davis. On the next play of the ball, he just kept the ball alive. This is what they've been trying to do all game. This is a very good pass here. Straight into the gap. No one in front of him. Went away for a great try for the Magpies. Gives them a little bit of heart, and they have converted the try.
The Knights 48, the Magpies 6.
And successful by Shane McMenemy was the goal kicker. So 48-6, Chris Marland's first try of the year for Wests. 48-6. Just over 3 minutes remaining. Well, they get 50.
Well, that's what I was going to say, John. At least you can say West got their 6 before Newcastle got to their 50.
No wonder I can't win goal lotto. No hope whatsoever. McMenemy back towards halfway. Cherry Mesher, who set up that last try, he hasn't given up trying today. Away from Perry, now in the arms of Tavita Ramon. On the halfway mark, Ramon plays it to Bristow on the blind side, and then to Coxon. Loses the ball, this will be a penalty. Two into the tackle, stripping the ball, rules Matt Hewitt. West's penalty, they're going to finish with a flourish, the Magpies. Kevin McGuinness puts it into touch, and Mesher will take the tap. 22 out from the Newcastle line. Through Dorahy, and then away to Amon. Gets to the 20, on the first Amon. Georgalis looking for the runner coming around him, that was Perry. Then to Bristow, hands it back inside to McGuinness. Kevin McGuinness to play the ball to Perry. Perry tries to slip through the defence himself. He's held on to 8 metres short. Marland, who was the try scorer, wide to Brooker, then away to Mills. Trying to sneak his way through. He's only 2 metres short. Marland to Perry. Short pass on to Coxon. Oh, they should start again. Play for another 80, they're in for a chance. Next to the post goes Scott Coxon. Also his first try for the season for Scott Coxon. Scores next to the post. 2 consolation tries for Wests, but at least they put a couple of tries on the board. Well, haven't gone away with absolutely nothing.
And a very good ball and a great angled run. He ran back into the gap and just too much strength. Got his way over. It's a very good try for Western Suburbs. As I said, maybe they're playing for next week. I guess in fairness, though, he's missed the goal.
Could have thrown it over Shane McMenemy and he's missed it. So 48 points to 10. Probably be a little disappointed with that Newcastle, that they did let them in for 2 late tries, but take nothing away from the poor old Maggies. It's just good to see them scoring some points and not getting belted to nil every week. Knocked on, the ruling against Billy Peden. So inside the last few seconds of this game, in fact, none of the players want to pack this scrum. And the sun shines on the victorious coach of the afternoon, Warren Ryan. Newcastle defeating Western Suburbs by 48 points to 10.
And thank you very much for attending.
Comprehensive victory it was, 48-10 by Newcastle, and with the defeats of both Cronulla and Sydney City, certainly pushes them up the ladder into the real comfort zone and a chance perhaps to still take up the minor premiership. The Newcastle Knights, they scored 9 tries this afternoon, and that man was absolutely brilliant in leading his side. Didn't have his brother on the field for long. Matthew Johns was injured, but Andrew certainly compensated for it. It was a wonderful performance. 6 goals by Andrew Johns, 3 try assists, 15 kicks in general play, and try of his own disallowed. A great game by Andrew Johns. Too good, the Newcastle Knights. They've defeated Western Suburbs here at Newcastle by 48 points to 10. On behalf of Brett Kenny and Russell Fairfax, I'm John McCoy bidding you good afternoon from Marathon Stadium.